All right, welcome everyone to the third episode of And Also This, which today will be featuring Sheila Benson. In case you were wondering what she was talking about when she said it's basically a really big guitar, now you can see what it is. So, yeah, so anyway, Sheila, I think, do you wanted to, play a piece first and we'll talk for a while?
Yeah.
One. So, okay, so
Yeah.
very
I
little.
will explain the title of the, but that's part of the second piece. So I actually wanted to, because I mean, really, you want to hear the harp, right? And so this is Ingrid. We'll talk about harp anatomy in a little bit. But so I wanted to start because it's Christmas. And when people think harp, they think Nutcracker. And so I wanted to start with like what everybody knows, which is the Waltz of the Flowers cadenza, which is also, I'm thinking, Jeremy, of what you said about how it gets a little nerve-wracking to play. This one, if I mess up, everybody knows, because everybody knows this piece. So we're going to get this one out of the way first. Okay, so fun fact, how we are used to hearing this cadenza is not what Tchaikovsky actually wrote. He wrote this weird, like, instead of the cascading down, he had it, it's the right notes, but he did this. So it's hard because it's back and forth, and it doesn't sound like that nice cascadey kind of thing. So somebody down the road, like years ago, a harpist decided they didn't like the cadenza, and they said, it's a cadenza, I can do anything I want. And so they created this new thing, and everybody else liked it, to the point that when people actually in auditions play what's actually written, everyone goes, oh, they did it wrong. So there's your little fun trivia. So let's do a little bit of harp anatomy here. I'm trying to, the tricky part is figuring out how to get so you can see everything. So we'll start with the top of the harp, which is called the neck. I don't know why it's called the neck, but this is the part that if this breaks, this is a very, very bad thing, because this is, I tune the harp, Caroline, and the tuning, so this is the most expensive part of the whole harp, because this is where all the moving parts are. So each of these little pegs has, on the other side, you can turn it with a little key, and I tune it. And so this part right here, this is the most fragile part. This is the knee, this little curvy part. This is where, like, I have a friend that her harp fell backwards and landed on this, and the harp almost fell. Like, that's like the worst thing that you could possibly have happen is for this, because this is where all the tension is. And then the column is the front, and then see if I can get so you can see the pedal. Oops, did I lose you? Hang on. I think I just lost my Zoom. Hang on, I just dropped. Oh.
No, you're good. We can still see you.
Okay, so I just can't see. So I don't know if you can see the pedals. You can kind of see them.
Yes,
yeah,
we can see them.
So that's how I change sharps and flats. So it's basically, if you look at a harp, this is the white keys on a keyboard, like the white keys on a piano. And can you see the colors? Are those coming through? There should be reds and blacks. So reds are C, blacks are F. And that's the only way you know where you are in a harp, is from visually. So I didn't used to like memorizing things, and now it's all about memorizing. It's all about patterns. Because there's nothing worse than like looking at the music on the page and then looking over at the harp to make sure what my hands are doing, and then looking back and not knowing where I am on the page. That's like, I've had that happen before, and it's really scary. It's like, oh, this is not what I want to have happen. So let me talk about the title of this why I titled the session the way I did. So the other piece I want to play for you is called Baroque Flamenco. And so it's a Baroque theme, and then it's flamenco guitar, kind of all smashed together. And the person who wrote it, Deborah Hansen Conant, was looking at her harp one day after like packing everything up after a concert, and she said, wait a minute, wait just a minute. And she said, basically, this harp is a giant guitar. Can I play harp like a guitar? And there's actually a lot of like guitar harp combinations that work really well. So this is going to be Baroque theme meets flamenco. So, and I'll get it out of the way again, because this is a one shot, and you'll see why. This one's going to have a lot of sound effects in it. It's going to have percussion. It's going to have like flamenco strumming. So I'm going to try and turn this. You won't be able to see all of the harp, but I want you to be able to see what my hands are doing. So here we go. So now you need to ask me.
All right, that was amazing. That's a little bit of everything.
So yeah, so basically guitar, I should say, so since COVID started, my teacher sent a challenge out to all of us to try to do things on harp that we don't normally do. And so my choice, I learned a cover of Africa that had like all the percussion. And I found out that I really like doing percussion on harp. But if I get too excited about it, like the thumps are like on the fingertips, yeah, those aren't meant to be thumped very hard. So there have been times I practice and I'm like, that really hurt. Like my fingers are like, you know, it's the ends of your fingers. The bones don't like that. So yeah.
Oh. Well, that piece was a little bit of everything. There was,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I had questions, but I'm sure I should just shut up and let other people ask some questions that they have. So, although I do want you to just at least tell us one good story about moving your harp around, because you have many.
Okay, so I play for Wartburg Community Symphony, and 2 Februarys ago, we had, I don't know if you remember that crazy where it was ice rain and then it warmed up and then we had like that ground blizzard. That was the weekend that was the concert. And I had arranged to stay at a friend's house because I knew I wasn't gonna want to move the harp. Like riding on an icy road with a harp in the car is a nightmare. So I was like, let me get to Wartburg and stay at a friend's house. It's a mile away. So I had that all taken care of. And then the day of the concert, it had ice rained the night before, and my harp was already set up in the auditorium. But we had 3 of us, so I'm trying to like get my back of my car open because the doors had frozen shut. And so I'm trying to like climb over in my like symphony dress to like kick the door open so I could get the car warmed up. And another friend is like chipping at the ice on my car. We've got snow blowers going. I mean, it took like 3 of us just to get me a mile down the road. But yeah, so that kind of stuff happens.
Hmm.
Let's see. Julie, you're asking about, you technically, no, you just have to build up calluses for fingers. But I have learned that my fingers, I will build up calluses because I practice every day. And I'm like, and if I don't practice every day, I lose the calluses. But then I lose them anyway because I have skin that it peels off. Like my thumb calluses will peel off after about 2 weeks. I'm like, no, I just worked really hard on that. So my teacher said there are ways to, because I used to get really bad blisters, and there are ways to take those like fabric band-aids, like you remember the old fabric flex band-aids? You can create kind of a skin over the top of your finger to protect it while you have blisters. But I've only had to do that once, but it worked. Ibuprofen's good too.
Sheila, I want to know, like, when you decided to study the harp and play the harp, because, like if you want to play guitar, you can get a cheap guitar and learn to play it, or, other instruments, there are smaller versions of it. I don't know that there is one of a harp. That's a huge investment. And like wondering about the thought process of like, yes,
Okay. Yeah, so it was when I have only been playing since I was for 10 years. I started as an adult. And there was, when I was at West Virginia University, they had a harp, like a 6-week harp class that you could do through their community arts program. And I said, well, sure, this sounds kind of fun. And I liked it, but I was like, I will never be able to afford a harp. This is actually the larger kind of harp. There's also lever harps that are what like little kids usually start on. And they run about $4,000 to $5,000. This is going to be more like 15. This is a car. But I didn't rent. I actually got a really good 1 year. I got a really good tax refund, and I said, "Hey, I could afford a lever harp with this tax refund." And so I drove to the Virginia Harp Center in New Jersey with a friend and got myself a harp. And I would like get up and just look at it, be like, oh, I have a harp in my house. This is so cool. And I never thought that, I call this my big girl harp. I was like, I'm never ever going to be able to afford a big girl harp. And my teacher here said, there's only so much you can play on the smaller harps. You need a bigger one. So yeah, it was kind of like a sort of a whim to start off. And then I found out I really liked it. And yeah. And I should say, this is also, so this is not the biggest harp there is. This is a semi-grand. So it has all the strings of a concert grand, but it's not as tall, which makes it so I don't have to have quite as big of a car to fit it in. It also makes about $10,000 less expensive for, you know, I mean, like the concert harp is going to have a much nicer, like, it's going to have more resonance. It's going to sound like whenever I play my teacher's harp, when she brings it into the studio on campus, I'm like, oh, I like this one a lot. Can I just play your harp? And she's like, no, it's mine. Yeah, it's kind of like pianos that way, but a baby grand piano is less expensive than a harp. Like when I found that out, I was like, what? So
That does remind me of a favorite moment in a Marx Brothers film where they trash a piano and pull out the innards of it, and then Harpo ends up playing it as a harp.
and apparently he really did play.
Oh yeah, he really did.
Like he wasn't like classically trained or anything. There's not to get super technical, but there's kind of two different schools of harp playing, and they're rivals. There's two people who took from the same teacher and were both very, very good, but had very different approaches of how they felt like your hands should close on the harp, like your technique with your fingers. And harpists make a big deal about which way you were trained. I think it's kind of silly, but there are people that, like, you could start fights in a room of harpists, apparently. If, yeah. Oh, favorite composer. Let's see. I really like Ravel. Ravel knew how to write for harp. Because a lot of times in an orchestra, harp kind of gets buried and like with the basses, and it, you know, you don't get to hear the harp, it's kind of hidden. Who don't I like would be Wagner. Wagner's impossible. Like he just was like, yeah, you can, like, people who don't know how to write for harp will just create this huge impossible chords with lots of chromatic things. And so the problem with chromatics is you have to figure out the pedal changes to do the sharps and flats. And there have been times that, like, I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm like, this person sat down at a piano and was working out jazz chords, and they were not thinking about a harp. And Wagner's one of those. There are others.
So are you going to continue playing with
You're breaking up a little, Jim.
the Wartburg?
Yeah, I like playing for Wartburg. The season's kind of weird right now, so they've had technically 2 concerts, but they haven't needed harp because they've been trying to do chamber music. I'm trying to elbow my way into the February concert. If there is a February concert, we're trying to do a bassoon harp duet, because the bassoonist is also saying, hey, when do I get to play? So we're hoping that the April concert will actually be like full symphony. But yeah, it's kind of weird right now. I talked with another friend who's a harpist, and she's like, I don't have anything to play right now. What do I practice? I don't have any gigs. I'm not playing for any weddings, you know, so it's kind of weird. Also, I used to play in the ICU at the hospital for like patients. Obviously, that's not happening. I don't think I'm not sure that's ever going to happen again. I don't know that I'm going to ever feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Wow, Caroline, you got all the questions. I don't go by time. I go by I'll have like a task that I want to do for the day. I'm going to work on this section of this piece. And I kind of just, once I get started, I just play until I'm done, which is probably somewhere between a half hour, 45 minutes. It depends on how panicked I am. Like if I played for a concert once that I only had 2 weeks to learn all the music, and it was right before spring break. And I just spent like every waking hour that I could on the harp, because I'm like, if I show up at that rehearsal not prepared, that's bad. Like there's a lot of like ahead of time that you have to figure out you have to basically know your music before the first rehearsal for harp. So everybody else is sight reading, and I like have already sunk a bunch of hours in.
So is it a big deal then when you decide to, like, you're going to move it somewhere? Do you have to really think about that?
It used to be. I'm used to it now. It depends on how cold it is outside. If it's cold and I have to wrap it up, then it's a big deal. Or if there's like my front walk is completely ice free because I'm like, I cannot slip with this thing. Like it's under insurance, but I'm like super careful. Let's see, Kat, you asked favorite instrument to accompany. I haven't done a whole lot. I've done a lot of flute. There's a lot of good flute harp stuff out there. I like harp duet. Harp duets are really fun. Like I like chamber music kinds of things anyway. I'm playing for a horn player's recital, her senior recital at Wartburg. Hopefully we're doing this in person in like March or April. And it's horn, percussion, piano, and me for a piece called The Glass Bead Game. So it's somehow based off the Herman Hesse book, which I don't know anything about at all. So, but the music's cool.
Oh, great. So, all right. So we are coming up on the half hour.
Okay.
People got to get to lunch. But does anyone have any other questions? Ken, we still want to see you if you want to just turn your camera on and say a quick hello before before you go. But I don't know if you have a camera on your computer.
Caroline and I have been having Ken withdrawals.
Well, all right. Well, I should say that we will be back doing this in January. On January 6th, Rachel Morgan will be talking about knitting. And with the excellent title I come up with, Knitting is the New Yoga, to be followed by Yoga is the New Knitting. It'll all come together. All right. Well, Sheila, that was really great. What a nice, like, I don't know, little oasis in the midst of some cold weather here. Thank you. Do you think you could play us out a little bit? Or are you all wiped out?
I could play us out. We'll do a Christmas song. We'll do a German Christmas thing. Let's see. Just a little bit. Oops. Hang on.